Okay. Hi, Lauren Grace here, and welcome to the show. And I'm joined today by Michael André Ford. He is an intuitive angel. Let me start that one more time. Michael André Ford is an angel intuitive, although maybe you are also an intuitive angel. Maybe it was a lucky slip there, whose ability to remove the veil since 2012 means that people feel, hear, and see angels, figures from India, Native American chiefs, plus many other loving beings like Mary, Buddha, Plato, Jesus, my man, light beings, and passed over loved ones. He's the host of the Angels Positivity and Love Show, where guests take steps with angels on air. Michael's book, Listening to Angels, was an Amazon #2 bestseller in angels. And Michael is joining me today to talk about all things angels. We're going to talk about how you can get started with connecting with them. Does everybody have access to these angels? Do we have angels for different tools, different abilities, different challenges that are happening in our lives? And can we see angels? And not only can we see them, can we actually capture them in photography? Michael, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me on the Afterlight Podcast.
Now, I will
And the
say for our
answer is
listeners,
yes to all those.
yes to all
And
those.
the answer
Okay,
is
well,
yes to all
spoiler
those.
alert.
Yep.
Spoiler alert. One thing I will tell our listener at home is that Michael is very passionate about what it is that he does. And I went through your beautiful book, Listening to Angels, and I felt that the passion, the love, the compassion, and the empowerment really came through in that book. And I've already felt that with connecting with your energy. I feel that you have a graciousness. I feel that you have a desire to really support people on this journey. So it seems to me like you've tapped into this hidden world that not all of us know about. So where did it kick off for you? You mentioned 2012 in your bio, but have you always been spiritual, open to these ideas, or did you have some grandiose aha moment that kicked it off?
I probably had little things happen in the 70s and 80s, but I mean, I was pretty clueless then, still pretty clueless now. Worked on Wall Street for a couple of years, then maybe 17, 18 years public relations in New York. It was after a layoff, after the Lehman crisis. I was working at a $1 billion revenue law firm that I got a chance to move to Austin when everything started to happen. And I started to hear, feel, and see angels, other loving guides. And I freaked out like a good American, took a lot of photos, and then it's simply unfolded from there.
You know, I love talking about the subject of angels because I feel as though when I was on my spiritual journey, I got the Rider-Waite deck was my first tarot deck. But then shortly after that, I got Doreen Virtue's angel deck, which is battered and beaten, and it's tucked away in a private area right now. It's too bad, I should have had it here for you. But I've always felt connected to the angelic realm. I've always felt supported and loved and nurtured by them. What is it about angels that you felt connected to, or did they connect to you initially? Because sometimes with spirituality, we tend to connect with the elemental world, or we tend to connect with star seeds. But what was it about angels that really drove you and lit up your light?
It was just my direct experience. I started literally seeing them, hearing them, and again, Plato, Native American figures, India figures. So it was a lot for me. If I got woken up at 3:30 in the morning, I was not necessarily a good student marching off to the living room to meet universal loving figures. I might have been turning on MTV or a black and white movie to duck the situation, but it would be a guardian angel film or the music video, Hello, Hello, Hello. I just came by to say hello. And I couldn't miss the sort of synchronicity of those movies or the videos. I did my best to not pay attention, and it only got more intense and more direct. And then I learned, hey, there might be something beyond human thinking. And again, the photographs helped, talking to a lot of other psychics out there, literally grabbing them by the lapel at the beginning. What's happening to me? They don't teach you this in high school. They don't teach you this in college. You don't know that the universe is actually really big. And I just add, love is probably the fabric of the universe.
Mm. Well, I think so too. And I was just recently wrapping up Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me. Have you read that book?
I have it. I've poked through it. I'm a little behind on a lot of reading.
Well, I honestly, I actually listened to the audiobook, so I'll just say that. But Yeah, that's what I felt that was a really like a woven thread throughout the whole book was about that was about love, was about self-love. And I feel that when there's love and there's self-love, most importantly, that there's an elimination of fear.
Mm. And I'll mention she was kind enough to endorse the Listening to Angels book at this end. And if you wanted to know the 3 things I've picked up in a whole 12 years helping a few thousand folks, I can sum it up in like 20 seconds. It's where you put your focus is where you put your focus. Angels exist, just trust that it's so, and then your answers and much more will come. You only have to just get out of your own way up here and watch the journey begin. The universe takes care of the rest for you.
I had a guest on the show a little while ago, and we were talking about trusting the universe and asking the universe for help. And one of the things that we were discussing was the sometimes the reluctancy of us to actually ask the universe for support. And a big part of that is actually because on certain level, we don't think the universe is going to do it properly. So we need to control the outcomes, or we need to control the behaviors of, ourselves or the things that are around us, right? A lot of control, I suppose. So my question to you is, how did you kind of learn to sort of relax into what was happening to you? I mean, you talked about having a very different background, working on Wall Street, being in finance, and then moving to Austin, and then opening up to these intuitive gifts, getting these, signs from spirit to kind of let you know, hey, there's something else that's sort of happening. But how did you begin to start to trust? And I'm under the impression that you really seem to be very 100% all in, very trusting, that there's no kind of other part of you that's kind of doubting what's happening, or what's going to be taken care of by them.
Everyone's got a really big heart, and everyone's got unbelievable abilities. Like when I say no limits, I mean no limits. But good luck for Joe, Sarah, and Bob on the west coast of Australia believing that right now, or in Europe. The second you either face a life crisis, that car accident, health crisis, divorce, job layoff, sometimes those are the actual openings that allow you to
Yeah.
just trust more, breathe more, smile more. It's far simpler than people think, and that's simply because it's not about thinking. You have to get out of thinking into your heart. And I don't think people understand that they can equate it to athletics or cooking or yoga, poetry, walking the dog. Those acts, we kind of discount a lot of acts, even flipping a light switch. And the degree of difficulty involved to do basic hearing, basic feeling, basic seeing is at the level of flipping a light switch, drying your hair, taking a shower, falling asleep at night. That's it. And I think we make things way too complex. The good news is it's okay. You're good where you are. Don't even try. Ditch everything I'm saying. But for the gung ho ones, the ones who want to give it a go, you've got this.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So one of the things that I realized, I mean, I have a very similar story to you. Well, maybe kind of. I got made redundant during COVID, and then I decided to take my radio background and start this podcast. And I've always been on my spiritual journey, and really kind of gone through ebbs and flows where I'm like not doing anything for 5 years to really getting all full into it again. And it's been such a process of learning, letting go, discerning information, getting to know myself, taking information from source and really filtering it through my own truth, my own heart. And I think that, what you're talking about is kind of about maybe almost the recognition that we all get there in our own time, that if we kind of honor where we're at and listen to where we're at, and it's all right that where we are right now is perfect. I think sometimes our egos come in, don't they? And they want us to be in a different position than we're in, or they take us out of the present moment into the past of what could have been, or into the future of what may be. And we sort of miss the opportunities that are happening to us now. It's very funny with the Anita Morjani. I really feel when I listened to that book that I had this major aha moment. And part of that was because there were all of these things that were lining up to tell me to read her book, including you mentioning her to me in an email exchange. And so I went, okay, I'm listening finally. It's only taken me a few different prompts. And so then I ended up listening to it, and I felt that I kind of found the missing piece of the universe, which is the self-love part. So thank you for that. So I guess my question to you is, how do people become patient with their journey, being patient with they are. And then let's get into a little bit about the connection with angels, because what I loved in your book, Listening to Angels, is you had some really easy steps for people to follow to really start to connect with angels and start to hear them. But before we get to that, how do we kind of honor where we are and be okay with that?
Well, I'm going to back up a little and just say, look, love's a total constant. And as Mary said, the big Mary, I mean, you can be religious, not religious. And if we're talking faith, it's religious or non-religious faith. I call it letting go, to get out of the brain, get into the heart, just be in the present moment. Love's a constant. She said, open your eyes to see love. And I'm going to flip that pancake and go on the other side and get back to what you said earlier, which is ego's just a temporary lack of compassion, temporary lack of being here. So it's kind of like Christmas Carol Scrooge, rejecting, reacting, fear, worry, stress, hardcore analytical and knowing. But we operate as mankind in a knowing that precludes possibility. It limits. So it's limits up here, whereas it's limitless, timeless, unconditional love, awareness. So to sum it up, it's all about growing your heart space, growing your awareness, not more thinking, not more knowing, rejecting, judging, all the stuff that's a little bit of negativity. I'll throw the holy hand grenade into this conversation. This is going to be a shock to people. And if anyone at home says, but, then you've got your breadcrumb trail to figure out what to let go of, more of. So get a pen and paper, but you can be happy now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever. And that doesn't help anybody who's in a pinch or in a bind or in a pickle. What are you going to do with that? So there's something called thinking, and it's a flow, and it's not fun. It's like touching a hot stove, even in a small amount. It just got started warming up. And then there's the heart, and we've all at least experienced dog love, people love. When you were a kid, you had no limits. But then we did adulting, and we got real serious, and we got the Sherlock Holmes glass out. And that can take, like you said, 2 lifetimes, 2 decades, 2 years, 2 months for what Joe and Sarah can do for letting go like that. And it's okay. You're going to do it in your own way. You're the only one out there, whoever's listening, watching, to do your own figuring out, unfortunately and fortunately.
Yeah, well, one of the things that already, kind of I see about you is that you do seem to have this lightheartedness. You seem to have this joyfulness and this ease about you. I feel that for me, I sometimes am a little bit more serious. And even though I feel that I can laugh and have humor easily, like this another part of me that is sort of a serious part of us. So I guess it's sometimes about honoring where we're at, being okay with that, but also being like, lighten up, don't take yourself so seriously. It's a big part of it. And I feel like, in the world, that there's a lot of reasons to be very serious. There's a lot of reasons for us to, hold our notes close to us and, not share all of our information, ego power, ego loss is what's coming to mind. Thank you.
I thought in the late 80s when I was at Middlebury College, I went to Andover for 4 years. I thought I had seen the peak of ideology, and you got to think a certain way and you get in trouble if you don't agree with the crowd. I think we're at a huge amount of ideological thinking going on, and you'll just know it's thinking if no one's talking about love. There's unlove, there's love. And you're not going to hear like do whatever you want from most people these days. They're going to tell you how to think and behave. So I view everything as an opportunity for further expansion and growth, or an opportunity to just let go of up here. It doesn't mean you're not going to go back to thinking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I mean hardcore. Turn on the news and get judging. You're going to be good. Trust me. We can do judging and reacting all day long, but that's the opportunity for mankind, for each of us, is just to find a little more space down here, a little more breathing room, and watch what happens. For the universe will do the rest of the tango. It's your partner. And that's where you're learning to hit that heart button here and see what happens. You can see light on your hands. You can ask for flowers from the universe, angels, spirit guides, your relatives. They'll bring you the scent of something you haven't had in 2 decades that just toots your horn, and you're excited and you're like, wow. So there's a lot of mini miracles, miracle cities, if you want to use that Sanskrit word, I think it is Siddhi. And there's healing to be had. You can get hugs from angels. The hugs can become healing. Colorblind have seen some color. Angels can alter your path. I better mention that. And I better mention something about angels. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They live within you and around you, but you can see them as full-on humans if you're out and about in town. So you should invite that. They'll be the coolest strangers you've ever met. They'll say just what you were talking about at dinner the night before. You'll be a little caught off guard and you won't know how to react. But if you're a real adult, you'll actually be like, hey, do you have time for a cup of coffee? Do it. I freak out. I am very energetically sensitive. I get scrambled. I'm just recommending folks do the adulting thing in that moment and be like, hey, do you guys have time for a cup of coffee? They'll tell you if they do. And then you're going to have the best 20 to 40 minutes of your life. Send me a note on my website and let me know if they picked up the tab, you picked up the tab, or the owner came up, said it was on the house, or there was no tab, and somehow you're all drinking coffee. I don't know.
Okay, let's go back just a second here because I feel that our listeners' homes just scratch their head and gone, I'm sorry, what? Angels are actually humans as well. Also, I do want to talk a bit more about the concept of the ego and the present moment because I feel that's really important. And you did touch on that in your book. But before we go to that, let's just keep going with the subject here at hand, which is the idea that angels can show up in different ways. You know, what's really funny is that as you listen to different angel accounts of different people, or you even witness things. For example, let's say you're looking for a sign from spirit about writing a book, right? And then all of a sudden, somebody says to you, oh, you know, are you that author for blah, 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 like they mistake you? Is that kind of your interpretation of how an angel might show up in a real human? Or could it also be that a human maybe says things to you that you just feel that are outer worldly? Or how would you discern whether or not someone is an angel, someone's pretending to be an angel, or they're just a good Samaritan passing on a random message that they don't even realize is pertinent to you?
All the above, yes. And just think, flip it again and be like, how are a team of angels or 1,000 angels going to reach you? If you're really hardcore about your iPhone and driving and doing both, and you're headed to work, but you're thinking about the project next week, you're a consultant, how many trucks is it going to take for how many days, weeks, months to get the message on the side of the truck to you before you actually look up and pay attention? So we're doing anything we can, anything, all the time to be up in the brain and to avoid being in the heart and avoid taking a breath, smiling. You know, think of the meditation mindfulness crowd and how they're trying to get you here to give you a fighting chance to connect to the flow of the universe that's in and around you. So there's a little bit of interdimensionality here that seems like a more popular word with like the UAP UFO crowd. There's a little more, let's throw another wrench into it. Angels are still learning from us from our perspective. They're absolutely perfect. They know your past lives, they know your past, they know where you are. And it's great they speak all languages and dialects, but they also know how to like work with your personality to say it just the way you need to hear it. So if there's 4,000 ways to say birds of a feather flock together or karma or what goes around comes around, you know, you and I each have our own 3 ways that are at the top and we reject the rest because I like sushi, you don't like sushi. I like NFL football, but you like Aussie rules. You know, that's what makes us all so special, the contrast. So they know how to navigate all that. So if there were 1,000 of us listening to just one angel at the exact same time, they can handle 1,000 of us at the same time. We would all get the same vibe, but for some of us who are Japanese, we get it in Japanese with the dialect up north, the dialect down south, and then we would still get the same gist, but the answer would be tailored to our personality to get us here and to get us moving.
That's so cool. One of the things you talk about in your book, and also you've mentioned a few times here, is, you know, and I've mentioned as well, being in the present moment and our thoughts distracting us. And I realized a couple of years ago when I really got heavily into Eckhart Tolle's work about the present moment and witnessing when my mind wants to take me into the future or the past, that the present moment truly is, it's everything. And even as I say that, it makes me feel emotional, which is always true. Thank you. But it makes me, you know, realize that so many times, like you said, we're not seeing the trucks that are going by that's saying, go, go, go for it, or or turn right, or turn right, right? That we're missing that. And how do people kind of get out of their mind? Because it's one thing for us to talk about, yeah, there's angels around you, there's angels that may be coming up to you, that you're never alone, that you're co-creating with the universe, that you are limitless. But I mean, we're still trying to run these things through our mind. And when you're talking about coming from the heart space and really feeling into love, that's not something that can be intellectually considered. You have to really feel that from your heart of hearts. You have to have those moments of meditation, contemplation, mindfulness, where the mind really truly is quiet and you can really tap into your inner power within your heart space. But the fact of the matter is that we're addicted to thinking. We have information overload. we have stimulus all over the place all the time, including things that we're eating and drinking that are really making that sort of difficult. So is it just intention to go, wait a minute, I need to create those spaces in my life to be silent, to come back to my breath, to be here in the now moment?
Okay, so thinking's a lot of complexity, and thinking is like this and this. It's in control, it's in the driver's seat. The simplicity is here, the complexity is here. And part of this is there's comfort, like getting out of the comfortable path or getting out of the, let me read what it is, getting out of the comfortable path. That's what exploration is all about. Story Musgrave, NASA astronaut. Now, he's met angels at his own way out in space, I guess. The point is, it's totally available. It's there all the time. You get glimpses of it, tastes of it as a kid, as an adult, but we go right back in to thinking again the second we get a chance. If we have a little experience spiritually, we're like, oh, I've arrived. And then we're checked out for another 2 years, decade. Welcome to being human. What are you going to do? So
Right.
I hand people a direct experience of smelling, seeing, hearing full on. And it's a little bit of that ontological shock, a little, just to the brain. The brain kind of gets behind it, though, once you realize you can have any answer to any question. So at some point, it quiets down. It's like in an old biplane that only has a quarter tank of gas. It gets tired quickly. It's cunning, but it ain't wise or smart or sharp. It'll only hang around for a little while. The heart is like an F-18 fighter jet. I'm never going to hear that on another spiritual channel ever. So it just does circles around ego. Ego puts up a good fight, though, a big fuss, a lot of words, a lot of complex thoughts. It's usually just egoic thinking. At the end, how do you settle down to do yoga on a mat? How do you fall asleep at night? How do you brush your teeth? You just do it. So it's kind of like, it can feel like New Year's resolutions, and then you never get to them. You set them up. You're like this, that, I'm going to go on vacation. You never do. Welcome to being human. But this, and you just have an opportunity in each moment to get going. It could take it's a breath. It's noticing the flower, the bird. Let angels pop in, and that's where you can get a feather. Forget feathers the normal way is, I mean, do feathers, but you can get a feather made out of electricity, angel light, universal love, whatever you want to call light, consciousness. I've heard of and influenced, let's say, if you get a, somebody can have a feather come down in their kitchen and it's not real. You've made dinner dishes. So when the feather falls on the plate, you're not getting upset. It's not a real feather. You're not suing me if glitter goes everywhere in your house. That feather can come down, it bounced on someone's glass, and it's just love. It's light. So what you can do, I think you can see videos on my website, YouTube channel of like in the middle of an interview, a ball of light goes by. That's the basic way to see angels, is a little ball of light. But you can go bigger. Angels can make butterflies all over your room, and you're not hurting butterflies. 4,000 butterflies don't get trapped in your room, and you've got dead butterflies. You're crying the next day. That's not the way this is. It's no limits, and it's whichever way you're rolling. If you're from, if you've got to have it the East Asian way, the Buddhist way, the Catholic way, you got it. It's really like Burger King from the 80s. You got to have it your way. I hate to do a fast food advertisement here, but it's whatever way you need it to get you going. And angels also know how to do a lot of humor, just also to get you off guard, because you think it's a serious thing. You gotta say kumbaya this way. Exactly. It's dogma.
Okay, so let's just recap for a minute for our listener at home, because what we've sort of established here is we've established that we are supported by angels, that angels love us, that they're here to help us, that they can help us in a whole realm or a whole variety of different ways, which maybe we can tap into in a little bit later as well, in terms of how they can show up and some of the things that they can do, that we have the ability to be able to tap into them visually, maybe in our imagination is a good way of understanding how that feather might fall and might be there, but then might also be gone because it's through our imagination. We understand that angels can be captured through photos or on video through different orbs as they come. We know that in order to tap into the angels, that we have to be in the here and the now moment, which is taking those moments in life to quiet our mind, to understand and see when our thoughts try to trip us up, keep us in the past or in the future. And sometimes we're better at that than other times. And how angels really are here to support us, and they can show up through messengers like you sharing story or me sharing stories, signposts on those trucks driving by, or even humans coming to us in a coffee shop and maybe asking us a question that we then feel all of a sudden drawn to having that discussion with them. Would you say that's a fair summary at the moment?
It's fair, and we'll add, you can also just see them out your window a couple tennis courts away and full on. No wings, then wings. If you want a loved one or a relative or a pet to show up next to them, you do angels, Jesus, Buddha. It's full on seeing. And the irony here is pretend you had a twin sister. You're getting along. We put you in those game show booths. So you did everything separately. Full on hearing, feeling, seeing. And you're both kumbaya after that. You're excited. You can do joint seeing together. You can do joint hearing together. I had two sprinkler guys who met a few angels, including Audrey Hepburn and then Geronimo. One's jumping around in the driveway. That's how I'd react when something cool happens. You see your light on your fingers. In India, they do it this way. Celestine prophecy, they do it this way. You know,
Oh, I
you
love Celestine
freak
prophecy.
out. Yeah, so you see something cool and you get caught off guard. The little kid in you still exists. All the good moments in your life never went away as vibrations. You're just tapping. You're opening openness, to use the Buddhist or Zen expression. You're tapping the gateless gate. You're just being happy for no reason at all. But it's called allowing, I guess, with a capital A, and a little more allowing once a week. We're talking, I'll quote an angel, 7% less thinking a day, a week, a month. It's the same thing, is the Olympic gold medal for all of us. It's not realistic for thinking and judging and all the hardships to go away. It's just not in the cards for mankind right now. But a little more light in there, a little more consciousness, a little more just paying attention, a little more pumping the brakes up here, slowing down is all this is. And you don't even have to worry about that. Just set your intent and be like, hey, I could use a smoother path, walking a smoother path ahead. Angels, universe, make it so. That's it. If you were going to just be
that.
like, hey, I don't know about all this other stuff, and then watch what happens in the weeks ahead.
I was listening to Stuart Wilde. Are you familiar with his work?
Is this the Stuart Wilde from like the 70s, 80s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
the British
he's a
guy. He's passed.
yeah,
I think
he had
passed in
I had some of his books. He's he had an expression though. It's like zap, or I forget what it was. It reminds me of Highlander with the sword lighting up from those old movies. But he had a real thing he talked about.
He taught. Oh, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Let me know if it comes to you, because he's so incredible. I'm listening to one of his audiobooks again. I think probably the third or fourth time. But yeah, he says he's so punchy and funny, and he doesn't screw around, and he's just boom, 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 boom. But one of the things I was listening to him talk about today when I was out walking my dog is he was saying, whenever you're walking, breathe out love and light ahead of you. Oh my God, I feel emotional talking about that. And so I got this vision of, a golden path, and I'm walking on this golden path, and I'm going, and it's love and light and all this gold just ahead of me. And I love that idea. And I just thought I would share it with you because I thought you would resonate with that message as well, which is about, this is what's going to precede me. Here we go, all this love and all of this light.
I'll mention it this way. Everything has consciousness in it, everything. And if you're from India, like I know India is a big country, so not everybody in India thinks the same way, but a percentage of the country believes consciousness is in everything. You can hear trees, you can hear hummingbirds, you can hear your dog. They're like third graders. There are jinn, elementals. I just do unconditional love and above, unconditional love, happy. So it's a very big universe. Light beings exist. They're like whales. If angels are like dolphins. And then you've got all your relatives, some relatives you've never even met, some that you've vaguely heard of, the great grandmother, and then others you didn't even know you had. And then you got past lives. You can get caught up in all that. But the angels will still tell you sometimes about your past lives. I don't know. What are you going to do with it is my perspective, except some of those traits you bring in on this journey, you have a very unique life path. If anyone's not feeling satisfied, like you're kind of stuck in the ho-hum, you're just stuck. You have a very unique life path. You came in to do something. Angels can help you define it. Just trust that it exists. And then again, they'll help you kind of get back on it if you're not. I call it breathing, letting go, and allowing, and you'll immediately get on your path. Personally, you've got some desires. Follow that heart. And again, miracles is what a lot of people call it, but yeah, miracles. They're totally available, like nonstop. The brain gets in the way, our knowing gets in the way, and it's whatever way you want to roll.
Yeah, and sometimes we feel that we know better, or we think we know better, Whenever I'm writing down a manifestation wish list or something like that, I always say this or something better, because I'm very
Ooh.
aware that I may not know what's actually available for me. Like you're talking about opening up to those miracles and opening up to those limitless opportunities. I did this meditation a little while ago on Empower You Radio, and it was with Dick Sutphin, and he's a hypnotherapist, and it was Become the Light. So it's a guided meditation, but one of the things I love about his work is he allows 20 minutes of just space for you to just go and do the things that you want to take care of. And in this meditation, you basically go into a hypnosis state, and then you ascend, 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 and then you go up and you become the light. And all of a sudden, I remember looking and going, whoa, I have no body. I am the light. And I feel that I've been able to bring that into my life now. Even today, when I was walking around, I had this vision of just being the light and not being my human body and being my human form. And I remember listening, and it might have been from Stuart Wilde, talking about how when we restore and replenish us with the light, that we really can, almost heal everything and become a more refined version. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not really sure exactly the way that would have been described. Go ahead. Yes.
I remembered Stuart Wilde's expression. It's the quickening. He's got a wild expression called the
Oh,
quickening. And it reminds me of the Highlander thing after they've slaughtered each other and the sword goes up and
okay.
electricity goes down. But he talks about the quickening. And I think that's really being in the moment and being fully conscious
Mm.
and taking those steps the way he describes. So he had something going back then.
Oh, he has so much, and I highly recommend for our listener at home, and even for you if you're interested in checking out his work again, because it's, for me, I've read a lot of spiritual stuff, done meditation, all the things, but he has these just so many cool techniques, tips, and tricks, and he's all about empowering you to find your own way and your own voice. So let's get back for a minute to the subject of the ego, because I feel that what happens is what you've been talking about, how we, can kind of, our thoughts can limit ourselves. When you're talking about being limitless, our minds are going, what? Right? That just sounds like that's a grandiose idea, but that's not really true. And trying to almost make everything logical when there are some things that we just actually don't maybe understand. How do you get to love the ego and nurture the ego so that you are able to allow a little bit more, like you were talking about? And I feel allowing is a synonym of relaxing, surrendering, and trusting.
The brain, ego, thinking, our psyche is just super limited. It gets defensive. It judges a lot. It wants to reduce everything to kind of a linear, time-based, good or bad sort of setup. So I'll use a metaphor. If you just met a stranger or your best friend and you put your palms together, the ego starts wondering about the clamminess. It's like, how long do I have to do this? It's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine. I can feel the other person's skin, and yes, there's some heat. Now the exercise gets more interesting when you go like this. You're like, well, okay, yeah, of course I'm feeling the heat, but then the skepticism and the whole where science start to like depart, the brain has to check out what happens when you go 5 feet away or 100 feet away, or a pitch, a soccer field, or the distance of a department store away, and you're feeling that energy. Now let's take that even bigger. Consciousness is everything. Consciousness is when you sing. It's when you cook, when you just flip that light switch, hug your dog, or think about hugging your dog even. Although I'd argue there's a difference. The thinking is like, hey, I like my dog, love is nice, world peace. Are you doing it? The doing, the experience is the action with no thought. So now what happens if you start seeing the light between two people? You see the flow. And I can do this as a Buddhist transmission, or let's mention Love Actually, that British film, the airport scenes at the beginning, end of the movie. You see
Yeah.
that cousin, it's Heathrow, it's jam packed. No way you're going to hear your cousin. You like that cousin. You haven't seen him in 3 years. You're jacked. You're so excited to see them. Your eyes connect and you light up. I don't know what that is. We'll call it love, connection. You're just excited. But you can see that energy. It's everywhere. It's a 5-star Michelin restaurant. They're not throwing pans at each other. It's the 1 out of 1,000 kitchens. They're friendly with each other. They're dancing. It's around each other. It's the best meal the people out in the restaurant have. It's ballet, it's musicians. You can see the light all over the musicians and connecting people. So there's something going on, and your brain's doing the best to block it out nonstop. And I'll do a final supermarket example, the milk. You go to the milk, and two blokes are fighting. in front of the milk, and you're like, damn, I wanted to get my milk, but I'll come back. I'll go get the vegetables first anyhow. They're not refrigerated. And you just know there's a cloud over there. It doesn't feel good. You're like, they'll finish by the time I'm back. So sure enough, they're gone. You pick up your milk. How did you know? And how did you know about anything else? I get asked all the time, well, how do you know it's an angel? How do you know this? How do you know that? That's the brain. How do you know a good cup of coffee or a good cup of tea is a good cup of tea? You just know. And you don't
Yeah.
analyze the light switch. You just do it. You and I are not agonizing over the white molar from brushing our teeth 2 Tuesdays ago. It's just not on the dance card for the ego. It wants to analyze everyone, everything, political parties, the e-safety commissioner, this, the censorship, that. We're all over the place. We're throwing flags at everyone. But I haven't heard anybody really mention love, unconditional love, peace, compassion lately, except those humanitarians here and there and some Nobel laureates. That's it. We could use a little more peace, kindness, compassion. It starts here. So give yourself a break on the whole thinking thing and just take a breath. Let the universe come in and find a way to reach you and see what happens.
Michael, you really exude this joy and this ease of life and this, interest and passion about just having fun and keeping things, light and love and beautiful. Do you ever have a challenging day where, maybe that's not as easy to access? Because I feel that sometimes, tapping into that joyful energy isn't always as easy, or maybe we're just making it more complicated when we kind of go, wait a minute, I'm not having a very good moment. Maybe I need to go in and I need to put on some Whitney Houston and have a dance party in my car while I change my attitude.
Exactly. And music helps. If you can twirl, crank tunes, and do something in the kitchen to lighten up, that's it. And yeah, look, I've run into every type of human, and it could be the same person. They might not remember me when they rejected me hardcore 2 or 3 years ago, and yet they've been a guest on the show. That's happened. And so just wait a moment. The barometric barometer thing changes. We're all Christmas Carol, the Scrooge. I think it's a 79-page book. Stick to the movie. It doesn't matter. At the beginning, he's dental floss for a connection to life. He's only about money. He's a jerk. We'll all condemn the guy. He's the neighbor 20 houses down that none of us like, but it does no good to feed that energy, do that energy. It reflects back on us. Where if you can see that light that I was talking about before, when you speak, when you turn your focus into energy, that would change everything. And in fact, that would be the game changer for the whole world. Is when we use words, we're putting gloves on and we're either hugging or slapping with those words. The sooner you distinguish between what's kind of hate, negativity, fear, rejection, worry, stress, and just judging, knowing the preclusion of possibility versus that awareness, that love, you're off to the races. Once you've differentiated, why would you ever want to touch a hot stove again? Now, granted, that's all we're going to do for 80, 93% of the week. Welcome to being human. Bye-bye spider. You're going to that. You can't help it. But if you could just pay attention 7% more in the day, you're off to the races, and then you can kind of get that unique life path. You just have to invite the universe in. It might be dream time. And once you get over the novelty of it, it's like driving a car. There was a little period of time you were excited. You learned how to finally drive a car. You called everybody, hey, I'm going for a ride. How long did that last before you were stuck in traffic as an adult and complaining? And that's so it's like everything else. You pick up some new skill. You're the number one tango person on your block. And then 2 years later, like, yeah, I haven't tangoed in 6 months. I won all the prizes. I mean, there was nothing left for me to prove. I'm done. We have a fantastic way of exhausting what's right in us and around us. And so the moment itself is the miracle, and all moments can be the same. And it's going to sound really lofty, but at the end of the day, it's don't even try. Just take a breath, smile. Again, someone like myself, and there's others out there, can help pop you out of thinking into your heart to experience a lot. And then the ego later can come in and seize up and be like, hey, that didn't happen. Whoa, we need to be miserable for a week to make up for all the joy and the fun and the love that we got exposed to. You're seeing light everywhere. What are we talking about? And seeing angels, and even with wings out, and your cousin Martha. What are you going to do with that?
Do you find that, every day is a wonderment, or do you get, kind of wrapped up in your own mind and your own ego at times, even if you're bringing in that 7%, during the week to really activate that? I'm sort of curious.
I'm very enthusiastic, so I'm a
Yeah.
glutton punishment. I mean, I'm an idiot. I have knocked on 10 or 11,000 doors, and it's a little bit of like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. There's a quote from that book. Truth comes knocking at the door, you yell, go away, I'm looking for the truth. So there's an orange community out there. There's a banana, papaya community. It could be Buddhism, near death. It could be Consciousness Institute. I'll knock on every door and be like, hey, do you want to meet Buddha? Do you want to experience some more consciousness? And, half the crowd's like, hey, go away. We're looking for consciousness. The quantum something crowd is seeking the light, but the light's within. And the second you get over all the rules, regulations, the lingo, and the resistance, you can just have the experience. Like, I love stepping out of the way and delivering just, hey, listen to Einstein, Plato, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Audrey Hepburn, Elvis, a lot of religious figures, non-religious figures. Everyone's got to have it differently, but the great thing is they know what to say, and you feel the vibe, and you're like, whoa, one hug is worth 100 questions. And then, a couple more hugs, you let go of all your stress that you've been carrying around for decades. I mean, you're usually bawling or yawning. I think the record's 4 hours of yawning straight. That's if you're in a really tight situation. It's illness. It's 50-50 whether you want to stay or go. The record is, I think Australians are number one at this. New Zealanders, Canadians, and people from India, the other half of India. 49 pages of answers in 9 hours. I only checked in every 2 hours. How fast can you write? You have a backup pen, and do you have enough paper? Any level of detail. So I think folks just need to realize it's, basic. Be, breathe, allow, relax, let go, whatever you want to say it, grow your awareness. Don't be your thinking. There, at some point during your week, you had to let go. What is it you do really well? And then equate it. Look at it as, I didn't have to try up here. I know how to make those salads really well. Everyone loves them. They're always begging me for my Caesar salad. Whatever it is that you do well, that's it. It's poetry, hugging your dog, planting flowers if you're a good gardener. That's the skill level that's required for the letting go we're talking about. Letting go is letting go. Your details do not matter, except I didn't just say that. The details are really important. You can't, it's what you said at the beginning of the show. No one wants to hear, if they're in a real pickle, bind, pinch, how easy it is. It's just the way it works. It's the Einstein quote. The consciousness that says my problem is, my situation is, my drama is not the consciousness that allows you to move past it, look back and say, now I'm a little more cool with what happened.
One of the things I feel I've been getting better at lately is being the witness, the observer, noticing, oh, there I go again with that thought, or there I go again with that. I know I read the surrender experiment a few times, and it wasn't until I was listening to Bob Proctor and 14 hours of his talks where I learned, oh, wait a minute, surrender, the synonym of surrender is relaxing. And I think, when we look for those opportunities in our life, or when we notice things that aren't easy, when we're not making the salad the way that we normally would, or we're trying to control a certain situation, it's almost that moment to take our hand off the brake and to go, I'm just going to turn this over and let go. I'm just going to turn this over to the universe, and I'm just going to let go and just be for a moment.
If I had to say it one other way, I'll do this as a kind of final thing, is I love slicing right through it all. So you get a direct experience. If I light the lighter, do this, and then later you look, you can see extra light that can't be part of the lighter. If I put my hand up in Texas and you're in Australia, you can feel my energy through two screens. We went way past the pitch, the soccer field, or the department store distance. You start to see the light of an angel in my hand and pass it through two screens, or you just let a little pink ball of light fly by, and then you go the full seeing. And you do the full listening. Let's do it this way. What do you think your intuition's been the good half? Not the one that said hop in the Jag and go 140 kilometers an hour down that highway. Who do you think the intuition's been for like a quarter of your intuition this whole time? If you're a golfer, you would completely freak out in the middle of the tournament. You're cocky, you're doing really well, you're leading the tournament. You're on the 17th hole, and you're just saying to yourself, let's smack this one. I feel it. I'm going to get a hole in one. But if your Aunt Martha, who passed over 10 years ago, came in, or Archangel Michael or Jesus came in and said, smack that ball, you'd freak out and quit the tournament and then spend the next 10 years at probably a monastery trying to figure things out in life. I mean, we react. One little experience can send you on a spiral. So it's why it's your voice and you feel comfortable. So you got to find your comfort zone. But I'm going to do that quote that I mentioned from Story Musgrave. You also have to get out of your comfort zone to just like allow. The universe is huge. You're huge here. You know it, but we'll do our best and darndest to just not take some baby steps to go, whoa.
Hmm.
Yeah, and have a whoa experience.
How important is grounding in the work that you do? Do you ground, or do you find that you're very often up in, the spiritual realm?
Both. I happen to run a lot. I'm a runner for 42 years. I'm 56. So since I was 14, the running is grounding. The first 2 miles could be to get rid of all the junk that's happened. I get slammed a lot, even by the spiritual industry or community or whatever you want to call all the different pockets. Lots of support too. So it's the whole mix, the contrast. But it doesn't mean you don't feel it if someone says something mean or whatever. It's a lot for folks. It's a lot for me.
Mm.
But it's kind of, again, if you could see the light flowing off people, you're a real estate business person and you want to make a good real estate deal. You don't want to get burned and lose, a couple million or 50 million. Imagine how the world changes both for climate change and world peace and mankind's consciousness, but also for your real estate business. If you started to see everyone's flows, you could never make a bad real estate deal again. If they were coming in to basically, and you were thinking about that Thai group, not to single out Thailand, but if you're making a deal and you've got 5 different groups to choose from, and one of them is not, uh, so honest, you could see that energy. How about that?
Mm.
It changes all human dynamics in our interactions. If people started to see their light, see the light, let's make it funny. If you saw everybody's light, you'd be pretty stunned for a few days, but it'd be like driving. You'd get over it within a couple of years. And it would just make everything a lot easier. Consciousness. Joseph Campbell, Joe, you can meet him, talk to him about it. But everything is energy, is light, you just have to pay attention more. That's it.
You talk a lot about seeing, but people actually can pick up energy and connection with angels through different things. They can feel them, they can hear them, they can just know truth, they can be claircognizant in that way, they can taste things, smell things. So it's not just seeing as well.
Nope. And that's a concert in Austin, Texas with a lot of glare on it. But that's not orbs and it's not humidity. It's angels and a lot of angels. And I asked once if everyone took a photo, what percentage of people would get it? And it was either 1/3 or 2/3. You just have to be open, willing, and allowing. That's it. You got to be here and
Mm.
stuff happens. And if I play ball with my dog and take a photo first before I played ball, maybe there's a few balls of light out there. But if once I'm having fun, my dog's having fun, it's like snowflakes everywhere. It's come in. So it's concerts. You can have whatever your best Bee Gees, Depeche Mode, Grimes, Small Black, whoever your favorite band is, Tame Impala, whatever your highest vibration was, it wasn't the concert necessarily. It was you opening up to the world, to the love that
Mm.
already exists. And that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say with Scrooge. I never finished the second half. We're all also Scrooge at the end of the book. We don't view him as the number one joy bringer. He did great business, but he had an expansive presence that people across the street would have waved hi to him. And he would have stopped to talk to everybody. And he still donated. He did great business. He was plugged in. He was connected. Let's do
Mm.
mafia stuff.
So one of the things you were sort of alluding to is that, do you help people with activations? Is that one of the things that you were talking about, that you assist people in, like the services that you provide is helping people to get these activations? Because you're just talking about these are some of the things that you do. I was just trying to make it a little
Yeah,
bit
I mean,
more.
if I was to go all complex in the expression, sure, I activate the rainbow light body. How about that one? I don't even know what that means, but I know I do it. I help a person just literally blow out their intuitive skills. You've got them. You trust some, you don't trust others. You don't recognize that when you're doing the cooking, the yoga, the sports, the business, that you're using some of your skills. I just help you appreciate it more so it expands out. And now you're trusting your intuition, trusting your connectedness that you're already using. It's that
Mm.
simple. It's like this. It's the quickening from Stuart Wilde, even though you and I, we don't quite know what it is, but I'm telling you, he was on to
Yeah,
something.
he's on. He's on. He also talks about the force within us and things like that. So
That's
one
it.
of the things you talk about in your book is connecting with angels. We're near the end of our time together here, and I would love to know whether or not you're able to kind of explain the process that you had in the book. I know you had different angels that were of assistance and for different uh, things that they could help with, compassion, joy, that sort of thing, including the angel called Joy. So can you take us through a bit about that process in terms of how somebody at home who might be learning this for the first time, or somebody might want to reconnect with their angels, how they could get started with listening? Because I know you talked a lot about seeing, but it's also about giving yourself that permission to listen, and then maybe you will also see.
And you just said it really well. And I got to mention, I didn't really write the book. I mean, I wrote it, but I was seeing balls of light as I typed. The blue
Michael's
ball of light.
showing photos for our listener at
Oh,
home. Michael's
yep.
showing a couple photos of angels, and I can put them on our YouTube channel as well. You can check them out.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I saw balls of light as I typed. So anyone who thinks that I actually wrote it, thank you. Like, it is such a gentle book. Compassion, unconditional love are the most
Yeah.
complex terms in the whole thing. Yeah. So look, take a breath, give yourself permission to let go. I only have one bit of rule or structure besides like breathing extra through your mouth. If no one minds breathing through the mouth more, some people are nose breathers. And maybe having pen and paper around. But the one request, it's setting your intent. Just be like, angels, get me out of my head, into my heart, make this nice. Amen, rock and roll, thank you. Om Sai Ram if you're from India. Own it. And then I help people take baby steps. I say it's 70 baby steps to get to bingo, to get to your heart, to experience the whole kit and caboodle. But one act of letting go could be half those steps, or all of them. Letting go is letting go until, like, you and I are analyzing it kind of from afar, and it's scary to get into the pool. But I'm trying to tell everybody you're Michael Phelps or maybe a different swimmer. You're an Olympic swimmer already. You've already got the medals. You just refuse to look behind you. It's kind of like Plato's cave or the jail cell analogy. All of us with thinking are hanging on to the bars on the window, looking out, saying what we want to be doing, or, the lack where we're not at. If you just look behind you at any point, the door's open. Like, walk outside and kick the soccer ball. You got this. So yes, the book outlines some basic steps. Like, literally, I suggest people use the photos as a stepping stone, but once you're over the photos, or you can carry them around on an iPhone, and a static photo of Audrey Hepburn, go to my website. Audrey Hepburn's historical photo is there. She'll wink, smile, eyebrow will go up, shoulder waggle. Great chance to meet your ego. Your ego will be like, I didn't just see that. She just smiled at me in a photo that can't move. Your heart goes, oh my God, best smile ever. And let's just mix it up and do Stuart Wilde. Ask for a perfume that hasn't been invented in Paris yet and get it. And you will be on cloud nine. If you like perfume, if it's got to be something else, do something else. Cooking, you can have flower smell, ocean smell. What are you going to allow for? And this is like, forget spirituality, forget angels, forget love and fluffy bunnies and everything else. What are you allowing for right now? Can you be any more shocked if you're not going to allow for like this much extra to come in? So this is about just living more, loving more, allowing more, having more fun. If you need to think of college, university, or uni, or high school, or even when you were 10, when were you actually having fun? Get back to that. Get back to your roots. Get back to exploration. Get back to getting out of the knowing, and just give yourself a break. I mean, that's where I'd say the starting point is for a lot of us. You get stuck. The rat race isn't the big corporation. It's up here.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Giving yourself a little bit of permission to just let it all go, loosen up a little bit. I feel like maybe shake around for a second, let your hair down, and really just give yourself that permission to connect with the joy and the ease and light of life. In your book, you talk about connecting with the photos that you've alluded to here, and having a pen and paper, and even looking at the photos and then writing down the different impressions that you get. Is that sort of a powerful way of being able to get started with learning how to do automatic writing as well?
Well, you could look at it as automatic writing, but it would also be like calling photos of angels, orbs, when I've got a fairy, the silhouette, or a silhouette of an angel, or in triangle shapes. And same thing with the conversation. You can just have a flowing conversation, go for a walk, and you can do it in your head. You could call it third eye or third ear. I've never said that before. Conversation where you're listening, going back and forth. But it doesn't mean there hasn't been a few people who have had them come in as full humans and walked with you in a private park setting. Like, you don't want to do this in the middle of a supermarket. What will you allow for? Like, there's tons of intuitive folks, and there's a few folks that are so highly trained but don't do the self-importance thing, or take all their training so seriously they can meditate for 8 hours straight, but they can stay loose enough to allow angels to walk with them and then have kind of a cocktail moving party conversation. So this is big. It's whatever version of spirituality or the universe or allowing or getting help that you're going to allow for. I mean, a lot of us will be really restrictive about it. You'll freak out at the fact that a feather showed up at your doorstep, but just keep asking
I love
for,
it. I love it.
yeah.
It reminds me that I am connected and that they're there with me. And yeah, I feel my angels around me all the time when I'm paying attention.
Exactly. When you're paying attention, same thing with me.
Yes. Well, Michael, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you didn't say? We covered a lot. I felt like this was a really high energy episode. I feel even as we're connecting, I'm like, la, 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 like that. I mean, yeah, is there anything that you really felt that you wanted to speak about? Anything, any lasting impressions that you want to leave our listener with at home? I mean, one of the things that you've established here, which is really fantastic, is that angels are there. They are here to support us and to help us. We just have to give them permission and ask that request for them to come in.
You've done it in the show often, throughout the show. You've said it perfectly. I would just say positivity is abundance. And again, that's being here. And if you don't like the word positivity, it's too positive. It's okay. It's just no one wants to hear in the middle of a divorce, job layoff, financial crisis, which welcome to, the last however many years. It's tight everywhere. Just understanding that your state of mind is something you can back off on a little. Breathe more, smile more, give yourself a break, give yourself some room. It doesn't mean not taking action, but the universe is here to literally, like The Alchemist, it's up there somewhere, or it's Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks. Universal forces are in place to help you out. The more you're thinking, the more you're blocking those flows. You're doing the dental floss Scrooge thing. If you want, I can blow some sage from Texas to Australia for you to smell. Are you game?
Sure, let's do it. And for our
Okay,
listener
so
at
I'm gonna
home
light some.
who's driving in the car, notice whether or not you get that smell in your car. That might be fun.
Yep. Anybody at home or watching or whatever, driving, just listening, it's okay. I've done this on radio. The universe is really big. Let it go through two screens. It's a little bit about, like, what did I say? Limitless, timelessness. If you need to view it as plant medicine, fine. Angels bringing it to you, your passed over uncle, all the above, your ancestors, or light beings or the universe, whatever your lingo is. Catch a little bit of sage. Some people are really intuitive watching this, might taste it on their mouth first. Sage, but if you're gung-ho and you're like, oh no, I'm already a healer for 40 years, I've done this blindfolded, ask for flowers as well. I don't know, wisteria, lavender, you'll just get what you get. I got a YouTube comment this morning, saying somebody smelled lavender. And I mean, I put that up on the website. I can't do them all, but it's what will you allow for?
I wrote
So,
down earlier,
yeah.
I smelled lavender.
And somebody, I have a really close friend forever.
Lavender.
And they're in one of the big financial cities of the world. And, thinking rules the roost for me, for you, for all of us. It's hard to explain thousands of people doing this and then catching flowers and catching an ocean smell. It's a lot to allow for. I'll give it to him and everybody else that wants to resist. But at the end of the day, just have more fun. Figure out a way to have more fun. Have your cake, eat it too. No calories in the cake.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the art of allowing. I mean, that's where it all is. And I think one of the things I want to reiterate that you said, because I felt like it was a real golden nugget, which is positivity is abundance. And, a lot of us are out there and we're chasing things. We've got goals, we've got aspirations, things we want to attract. And we're forgetting that we're actually responsible for the energy that we're attracting. And so when we can tap into that positivity, when we can allow that a little bit of, I'm hearing my guides are talking about whimsy, be a little bit more whimsy, be a little bit more magical. Can you put on those rose colored glasses and see life through the eyes of a child? And one of the things that we want to do is intellectualize doing that, but doing it is something different. But maybe even getting a pair of rose colored glasses and wearing them on and doing that, or bringing in a bit of that, inviting in a bit of that, the fun, the magic. I want to go back to that word whimsy for some reason. Just like not a word I say very much.
There's an angel named Matt. Don't call her Mackenzie. She's kind of a green shape, and she's everything plants, animals, and nature. She's one of your surf guides if you're willing to shut your eyes and surf like a pro. Angels can do like dimensional travel if you want. You can have India come to you, Tibet, Australia, and experience that and sit with them and kind of have a powwow. I'm out of the way on this, so we never mentioned that. But she said about compassion, it's treating every moment with the awareness of a newborn baby. And I think it's exactly what you were just highlighting.
Yes, yes, 100%. You know, who were we? Oh, I love that. Who were we before the world got in the way? And seeing if we could bring a bit of that back into our everyday life. Well, thank you, Michael, so much for being on the show. It was a really, it went by so fast. I feel like we blinked and it's been already an hour. So thank you very much. And I do feel my face is hurting from smiling. So thank you for your time and your energy and your good vibes. And yes, I can't wait to meet with you again.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you for having me on the show.